So how can we begin the history of Armenia? That's the problem. Let's take the easiest way and begin with the Bible. So in the Bible, you read that the Noah had a grandson called Torkom. And it stops there in the Bible. But there are continuations in Georgian and Armenian sources. These continuations give a son of this Torkom the name of Haik. So Haik is a descendant from Noah. And according to the let's say, between brackets, the father of Armenian history, Moses Khorenatsi, Moïse of Khoren, this Haik is supposed to be the ancestor of the Armenians. More precisely, Haik was, according to Moses Khorenatsi, Haik was in Iran dependent on his suzerain Bel, but he wanted to get independent from Bel. So he flew north from Iran towards the Black Sea. Bel pursued him, and at one moment there was a fight between Haik and Bel. And with an arrow, Haik succeeded in killing Bel. And then he decided to stay there where he was and found a country. And this is the land of Haik, so Hayastan. Of course, this is pretty, there was an absence of proof, of historical proof, but anyway, any legend has its part of truth. Now, according still to the Bible, another part of the Bible, it says that Noah, after the flood, the Ark of Noah landed on, so that's a very problematic problem. The usual translation is landed on the Mount Ararat. But this is a wrong translation. First of all, it's not the Mount Ararat, but the mountains of. And secondly, it's not Ararat because the Bible is written in Hebrew, and in Hebrew there are no vowels. So the real translation is the ark stopped landed in the mountains of, and then RRT. RRT, which is usually read Ararat, but there is no reason. So, to get more precisely, we used the sources given by the enemy of this state, the enemy being Assyria, the Kingdom of Assyria in Mesopotamia, because the Assyrian inscriptions are much more complete, and in the Assyrian inscriptions, one reads precisely not Ararat but Urartu, and this is the real name. So, in fact, in the Bible, the translation is the Noah's Ark landed on the mountains of Urartu. And Urartu is not a mountain, it's a state. It's the ancestor of Armenia. It's a state, Urartu. So thanks to the Assyrian inscriptions, we know that the name of the state, Urartu, and even the name of the first king, who is called Arame, the first king of Urartu, Arame. So this Arame is also quoted in Moses Khorenatsi, but with a kind of legend, the famous legend. Supposedly Arame had a son called Ara the Fair, Ara Keretzig, who was very pretty. Well, it's obviously for an Armenian, you know. And the Assyrian queen, Semiramis, was supposedly, who was the enemy, was supposedly in love with Ara-le-Fer. And well, this is the legend of Moses Khorenassi. And so when they fought, Semiramis ordered her soldiers not to kill the enemy, Ara-le-Fer, but to capture him. And in fact, well, there was a mistake, and the Assyrian soldiers killed Ara-le-Fer. And there's a very famous painting in the by Valdez Sourenians in the Museum of Armenia, showing Semiramis crying in front of the corpse of Ara-le-Fer. So this Ara-le-Fer is well, there's no historical background for that, but never mind, it's interesting. So this state of Urartu, which is about around the 10th century before Christ, this state of Urartu had its capital in the actual city of Van, on the shore of the lake Van. At that moment, it was called Tushpa. It was the name of the city of Van, the capital of the Urartu. It was called Tushpa. And in the geography of the famous Greek geographer Ptolemeus, it's called Tospitis. This is the first capital of the state of Urartu. One of the most famous kings of Urartu was Argishti I. Argishti I, so was the king of Urartu, and he founded a new capital city. This new capital city was called Erebuni, and it is the ancestor of the actual Yerevan. And it's very interesting because we have the inscription of the foundation of this city of Erebuni in 782 before Christ. The inscription is kept in Armenia, in Urartian language and alphabet. So the Erebuni became the first the second capital city of Urartu and the ancestor of the actual Yerevan. The climax of that kingdom of Urartu was under the reign of the son of Argishti I, who was called Sarduri II. And under his kingship, Urartu had its biggest extension and could fight victoriously against the Assyrian enemy. And we have also an inscription in Urartian language showing all the victories of Sarduri, giving the list of all the victories of Sarduri. So this during centuries, the whole game between brackets, let's say, was between Assyria and Urartu. Urartu in the north, and south of it, Assyria in Mesopotamia, so with the two rivers, Tigris and the Euphrates. But as always, when two great powers fight against each other, well, a third power comes and destroy them both. So that was what happened in the 7th century before Christ. That was the downfall both of Urartu and Assyria. So in the 7th century, and they were replaced, or the conqueror of these two were the two people called the Chaldeans and the Medes. The Medes are in Iran, are the ancestor of the Persians. So they took the place. So then Urartu disappeared as a state, and the population became part of the Median Empire of the Medes. So there was now a fight between the two new powers, the Chaldean and the Medes, and once again, a third people came and conquered them, all of them. That were the Persians. The Persians with the famous Achaemenid dynasty of Persia. So Armenia became a province of this new empire, of the Persian Empire. The province were called the satrapies. In fact, Armenia was divided into two satrapies of the Persian Empire, which corresponded to the Eastern Armenia and Western Armenia. There were two satrapies of the Persian Empire. So one of the most famous of the Persian kings was Darius the Great. And Darius the Great left many inscriptions, descriptions of his kingdom, and one of them is very important. It is an inscription in Beistun that is still, one still can see it in Iran, in Persia. And in this inscription in Beistun, Darius gives the name of all his vassal people, 23. 23 people who were vassals of the Persian Empire. So why is it so important, the Beistun inscription? Because it's written in 3 languages, in 3 distinct languages. The same text is written in 3 distinct languages, and in one of them, it's called the Urartu, and for the first time, in another of the languages, the same people are called Armenians. So this is the best proof that Urartu was the ancestor of Armenia. The Urartians became Armenians in the inscription of Beistun. So that is very, very important for the history of Armenia. So so Armenia, after that, the Persian, under the Persian Empire, Armenia was authorized to recover its independence, or rather to recover royal dynasty. So this was the first royal dynasty of Armenia. Well, the second, if we count the dynasty of Urartu. And that was the dynasty of the Orontids. Orontids in Greek and the Yerevan in Armenian. Don't forget, we know all that through foreign languages because Armenia was not written. Armenia hasn't been written until the 4th century. So all the sources that we have about Urartu, Armenia, are always through the foreign language inscriptions. So that was the first Armenian dynasty, the Orontids. Well, we know it very well by a direct description. The description is given by a Greek author called Xenophon. What is it about? Well, there was a fight for the power at the summit of the Persian Empire, and one between 2 brothers. One of them, called Cyrus the Younger, wanted to take to become the king, although he was the younger one. So he went to, there was a battle between him and Cyrus the Younger and the other, and the real king, let's say. Cyrus the Younger was killed. In his army, in his troops, well, what were they going to do? Because they had fought against the authentic king. So they went north towards the Black Sea. And in Greek, the name was called the Anabasis. Anabasis means the journey towards the north. And in this Anabasis, they crossed Armenia. And Xenophon was part of it and wrote all this history of the Anabasis. And when they crossed Armenia, he says that there were two kings there, Orontes and Tiribas. Orontes was, so as I said, the dynasty of the Orontids. He was the king of Western Armenia. Tiribas was the king of Lesser Armenia, let's say, on the eastern part. But what is very important also, the best proof, is that these two kings, we have monies left with their name, which is the best proof. So the Anabasis of Xenophon can't be put into doubt because all these two kings have struck monies. So we have monies from the Orontids. And so this dynasty continued to flourish under the suzerainty of the Persians until an event which was to change all not only the area but the history of the world. That was the expedition of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great came from Macedonia in Europe, but he decided he wanted to conquer the whole world, the whole known world at that time. So he crossed the straits of the straits, and he first had to fight the Persian army in a first fight, the Granik called, that was on the near the straits. So he was victorious. He continued his expedition and south towards Cilicia. In Cilicia, he met a second time the Persian army in Issos, and he got a second time victorious. This victory of Issos is very well known through many paintings, the victory of Alexander in Issos. Then he continued toward the east, and there was in Persia a third battle that was in Gogamel, or Arbel, sometimes it is called, and he was finally victorious, and that was the end of the Persian Empire. This third victory of Alexander put an end to the Persian Empire. So the huge Persian Empire was divided between the parts of it, each one given to a general of Alexander. But there were two very important moments in this area. First of all, if you look at the march of Alexander's army, he never entered Armenia, the geographical Armenia. He passed through the south of Armenia. He never entered Armenia. So for Armenia, that was all positive, because for one part, they were no more dependent from the Persian Empire, because the Persian Empire had collapsed. But on the other side, they were not dependent of Alexander, because he didn't enter Armenia. So that was a revival of the Armenian kingship, independent. Second important thing, in the army of Alexander the Great, there was a Persian general who had left Persia to go to ally with the Greeks. And this Persian general was called Atropates. Well, Atropates fought with Alexander. But after Arbel, after the Battle of Gaugamel, or Arbel, he decided not to continue. He stopped there in the south of the Arax River, and he founded a state under his name. And he called it the Atropatene, in the south of the Arax. So that was the kingdom of Atropatene, which was close, had a common boundary with the kingdom of Armenia. But kingdom of Atropatene was south of the Arax. And when later on, after the invasions of the Arabs and the Turks, this whole area was came under their suzerainty. Well, the word Atropatene became in Persian and then in Turkish, Azerbaijan. This is the origin of the name Azerbaijan. But what is very important, as I told, this Azerbaijan was always south of the Arax River. South. If you look at the maps, until 1918, there's not a single map where you can find the name Azerbaijan north of the Arax. Not a single one. It was always, and still now, Atropatene is the name of the northern province of Iran, south of the Arax. All this is a consequence of the expedition of Alexander. So this is it shows that the importance of history even for the modern politics. So the Armenians, as I said, were not directly affected by but in fact, the Armenians were Persian subjects, and they were obliged to fight in the Persian army against Alexander. So the Orontides fought eventually in the third battle of Gaugamel with the Persian army, but they weren't punished by Alexander, and on the contrary, they had very good relations with Alexander. The story of Alexander the Great was told by many historians, Greek historians, but one of them, called the Romance of Alexander, had a huge success and was translated in many languages, including Armenian. And there are lots of manuscript copies of this Romance of Alexander with fantastic miniatures. Fantastic miniatures, and quite a lot of copies, which shows the importance of this Alexander. So, and Alexander has always been very popular among the Armenians, although the Armenians had fought against him. So after the victory of Alexander, the Armenia became a new kingship, and then there was a new capital called, which still does exist, called Armavir. And then the capital from Armavir was moved to another one, which still exists, which is called Yerevan Tashat. All these come from that period. So it's around 200 before Christ that was the end of this Orontid dynasty. And so the last Orontid king left the place to another king of another dynasty called Artaxias. Artaxias, which in Armenian is Artaxerxes. So Artaxias was founded a new dynasty. Some historians pretend, which is very possible, that in fact Artaxias killed the last oriented king to take his place, which is very probable. So anyway, that was the Ardashesian dynasty. At that moment, a new invader was coming in. That was the Romans. After the Alexander, the Romans also crossed the straits and entered in Asia. And they had a very great and very powerful enemy there, that was Hannibal. Finally, the Romans vanquished Hannibal, and Hannibal went as a refugee at the court of Armenia. And so at the court of the Ardashesian, of the kings of Armenia. And according to history, the new capital was found under the advice of Hannibal, who chose the place of the capital. And this was the famous Artaxata in Greek, and in Armenian, Ardashat, which still exists. Ardashat was founded at a place under the advice of Hannibal. So that was now the third dynasty after the Urartu dynasty and the Orontid dynasty. The third one was the Artaxiad dynasty. In Armenia, the Ardashesian. But don't forget that Armenia was still not written at that time. So this dynasty was founded by the famous king, so Ardashes, and the grandson of Ardashes became the most famous king of all the Armenian history, Tigran the Great. Tigran the Great, so in the 1st century before Christ, Tigran the Great fought wanted to have very imperialistic desires. It is very exceptional because usually the Armenians they were not expansionists, as one means. You know, they never tried really to conquer the neighboring countries. But Tigran was an exception. Tigran was an imperialistic, let's say, king. So first of all, at that time, so the main enemy was the Roman. Because the Romans wanted to, like Alexander the Great, wanted to conquer that whole area, the whole of Asia Minor and even further. So Tigran opposed that, and for that he needed an ally. The ally was, and he found an ally in the king Mithridates, the king of the Pontus. Pontus is an area bordering the Black Sea in the north of Asia Minor. Well, at that time, how did you make an alliance with another king? Well, it was very simple. You married the daughter of that king, and that's all. And so Tigranes married the daughter of Mithridates, king of Pontus, and that was the alliance, a very strong alliance between Armenia and the Pontus against Roman expansionism. So, the first Tigran the Great got many successes, and he expanded his kingdom into a huge kingdom, which was the hugest kingdom Armenia has ever had, until the Mediterranean. That was the first time that Armenia was bordering the Mediterranean Sea. He conquered that whole area. And so he changed. He moved the capital because the former capital was not in the center of that new kingdom, huge kingdom. So he moved it in the center of this new kingdom, and he called it Tigran, which means built by Tigran. Tigran. So that is around the actual Diyarbakir, Amida. But the exact position is not known. The exact position of this capital Tigran is not known because the findings have not, the archaeological researchers have not given a very total result. But in fact, Tigran founded not only his capital Tigran, but several other cities that he called Tigran. Several other of them. One of them, that's very interesting, one of them, Tigran, not the capital, but another one, he was founded in the actual Artsakh. And when Armenia had a provisional victory over the Azeris in 1992, and Armenia occupied the whole area, not only Karabakh, but Artsakh, but also the surrounding area. Well, one Armenian archaeologist, Hamlet Petrosian, found the ruins of this Tigran, of Artsakh. And he found the ruins, and he found the museum there with all the findings of that area. Now, well, after the war 2 years ago, this is now in the hands of the Azeris. But the place is known thanks to Hamlet Petrosian, who could work quietly there because it was at that moment in the Armenian hands. So Tigran was, and there are others, Tigran. But as I said, the capital was the surrounding of Amida. That was in Armenia very often, Amida, which is the Greek name, in Turkish, Diyarbakir. Well, many Armenians call it Tigran, as if that was the capital. It's not sure, as if that was the capital of Tigran the Great. And so Tigran continued his towards the Mediterranean, but something very interesting, he never went towards the Black Sea. That remained the region of Pontus. It was never in fact, in the whole history of Armenia, no Armenian state arrived at the shore of the Black Sea. Never. But in the Mediterranean, yes, twice. Once under Tigran the Great, and the second time, well, in the 10th, in the 11th, 20th century, when there was when the Kingdom of Armenia was in Cilicia, bordering the Mediterranean. So, the Kingdom of Armenia was twice bordering the Mediterranean, but never bordering the Black Sea. Tigran the Great continued his conquest. He arrived he conquered the city of Acre, Saint John of Acre, which is now in Palestine, Acre, and he was going toward Jerusalem. But at that moment, some ambassadors came and told him that the Romans were attacking Armenia proper. So what did he? He didn't continue, and he went back to Armenia to defend Armenia proper. So, but some Armenian historians speak of his entry into Jerusalem, which is wrong. Tigran never entered Jerusalem. It was his goal, but he couldn't achieve it because he had to go back and defend his country. So he went back and he fought the Romans. Well, this time he was defeated by the Roman. The general Roman, Lucullus, and then Pompeius. He was defeated, but so he had to sign a treaty with Pompeius. But Pompeius did not annex Armenia. He only obliged Tigran to give back his conquest to Rome. But he kept Armenia. So that the Artaxiad dynasty continued to rule Armenia proper, but not all the lands conquered by Tigran the Great. So this is a kind of summit in the history of Armenia, this reign of Tigran the Great, which is not only famous in the Armenian sources, but also in the Western sources, Greek and Roman. They had a very great respect for this king, Tigran the Great. There's a legend, which is probably true, that when he was on horseback, he was always surrounded by 4 vassal kings, always, on foot. So these 4 vassal kings had to follow, or to sit side by side, to Tigran, who was on his horse. That was very symbolic. So that is the end of the most glorious page of Armenian history, the reign of Tigran the Great. So that's the end of our emission this time. We'll continue next time with the end of the Artaxiad dynasty and the birth of the following dynasty. Thank you.